Welcome to the People Experience Pulse podcast, your gateway to the new frontier of human experiences at work. On the PX Pulse, we're all about elevating experiences, fostering belonging, and building remarkable workplace cultures in a fast evolving world. Have you ever attended an all-hands meeting that felt more like an information dump than an opportunity to connect with your team? Maybe that waterfall of updates could have just as easily been an email. On today's episode of the People Experience Pulse, your hosts Vicki Flier Hudson and Jeff Bond discuss the common pitfalls and misconceptions of company-wide meetings. In this first of our new series titled Strategies for Success, Vicki and Jeff will challenge the long-accepted belief that company-wide meetings are destined to be monotonous monologues and highlight how these meetings can serve as a platform to demonstrate company values such as inclusion and belonging. We will be delivering you strategies for success episodes throughout the life of the PX Pulse podcast, so be sure to subscribe to the People Experience Pulse podcast on your favorite listening platform so that you can catch future S4S episodes as well as all of our engaging interviews. Stay tuned to hear today's conversation right after this break.
Are you looking to make your workplace more human? Check out my friends at CoolLeaf. What I love about CoolLeaf is that it helps leaders create connection, engagement, and recognition. You can celebrate team wins, reward colleagues, and have fun with your coworkers. You can build a culture of appreciation and feedback that boosts morale, retention, and performance. Listen to this clip from their podcast, The Great Retention, to hear how CoolLeaf transformed a company culture.
We needed a way for people to connect, and there was people who would work together and talk to each other on the phone every day. Who didn't even know them that well, and they had no way to appreciate them. What we liked about CoolLeaf was that there is that social element to it. CoolLeaf gave us an opportunity to allow our people to appreciate others they worked with on a daily basis, but just never saw in person. Not only did it give managers a tool to recognize their people, but from a culture perspective, it allowed people to connect. And it was really cool as a chief marketing officer to see some of the interactions that were happening on the feed, because that's something that we wouldn't have had if we didn't have a tool like that.
CoolLeaf also simplifies measuring and improving the employee experience with pulse surveys, rewards, and integrations with your everyday tools. To learn more about CoolLeaf and how it can make your work more human, visit coolleaf.com/trycoolleaf. That's COOLEAF.com/trycoolleaf to book your free demo today and see how top workplaces use CoolLeaf to put their people first and thrive.
Greetings, people leaders, and great to be here with you, Jeff, discussing a crucial topic, transforming boring all-hands meetings. So think about your last company-wide meeting. Was it just a monologue with slides and lots of updates? If so, it was probably more like an email than a true meeting.
Gosh, this is the case with almost all hands meetings that, from what I've heard. I mean, since we started doing this kind of work, Vicki, it seems like everybody that we talk to seems like this is an area of opportunity for their business, is to elevate the experience of the all hands meeting. I can't wait to dive into this with you today.
Same here. It's one of my favorite topics. And why do we want to focus on all hands in this series of strategies for success? Because they are common, they are important, but let's face it, they can be soul-sucking, right? So today we are focusing on a key question. Could your all-hands meeting have been an email?
Yes, this is a great question. And there are so many times where the senior leader, the CEO, president, whomever, they drone on about all the things that are going on in the company. And it's just very updatey. And all of those could be written into a concise email or Slack message or whatever your preferred internal communications method is. And so this is such a missed opportunity when you're gathering a captive audience who is eager to engage and hear these types of updates, but in a different way, in a way that includes more people. So let's get into the topic.
I know, I totally agree because it's almost like there's this series of myths out there about all hands meetings that everyone has bought into, but nobody knows are really there. So it's kind of like a subconscious thing. So there's so many common misconceptions about all hands meetings. I hardly know where to start, but I'm going to kick it off with my top three. So the first misconception about all hands meetings that's super common is format. So every all hands meeting I've been to practically has the same format. So the leadership speaks, and then other folks give business updates, and then there's slide after slide, which advances on the screen. And the myth is that it has to be that way, but the reality is that it does not have to be that way. Myth number two is that only leaders should speak at all hands meetings. So, of course, leaders should speak, and of course, they should set the tone. And it's important for them to share all those critical updates that we all need. But limiting it to leaders is, like you said, Jeff, it's a huge missed opportunity to demonstrate things that matter to the company, like inclusion and belonging. And myth number three is that all hands are just for updates. Now, okay, updates are very important. You want to know what's going on in the company, any town hall, company wide meeting, it's important. But the fact is, you have the entire company's ear. And so I'd love it if people thought about like what other messages could we be getting across that are equally important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think all those points are really important for us to focus on today because you do have the entire company's ear. It's a captive audience. Everyone is eager to engage and hear what's going on in the company. Transparency matters. Representation of their colleagues matters, not just the senior leader. Appreciation and recognition for the work that they're doing matters because everybody wants to know that what they're contributing actually is making a difference and that their work is seen and valued. And storytelling matters because if you're just giving updates and you're not pausing to share a narrative within that of how it's been manifested within the company and why it matters and tie it back to an emotion, people are just going to tune out. And particularly on virtual meetings, they're just going to start doing other things. They're going to be checking emails or Slack messages, doing everything but actually listening to the meeting. So don't miss this opportunity.
That is so true. And what really struck me in what you were sharing about representation and appreciation is I think all hands meetings send messages that people don't know they're sending. And so the question is, what message do you want to send? If it's just update after update, then you're not really sending maybe the message that you could be. So I think there's so many things that people could do to make all hands meetings more engaging, to think beyond that traditional format of just presentations and slides. So everything from, chat to polls, there's just so much that we can do. And we've seen some successful stories for all hands. They don't all have to be boring, right,
Not at all.
Jeff?
Not at all. And in fact, they can be fun. They can be fun to plan. They could be fun to be a part of. They can be fun to attend. And you should derive fulfillment from this at the end and joy. Like you should feel like this was a prime opportunity to create connection, share stories, feel something. Maybe you're going to cry at an all hands meeting because of the emotion. Maybe you're going to laugh. It doesn't have to be this boring, missed opportunity. It can be such a delight to be part of. And so we hope to convey that today.
That is so true. And I think also it's a really important vehicle for giving people visibility moments who maybe wouldn't be heard otherwise. So it's a chance to sort of take maybe folks that are on the margins of your organization and put them at the center and to give there's so many opportunities within all hands meetings that maybe people don't think about in the aftermath too, that if somebody gets a visibility moment, it could change their the pathway of their career. There's just a lot that could go on after the fact. So there's just so many options, everything from stories to breakout groups, reflective questions, uh, featuring people that are typically not heard, aligning with your core values. So thinking about, okay, take one of the company values and how do we make this visible and in all hands? How do we actually feature that value and make it be, something that the whole audience can see?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so good at that. You're a great facilitator and you really focus on how do we engage the audience versus just preach to the audience. And then they're just as consumers of our content versus feeling like they're a part of that. And I think that's been such a great joy in working with you and serving our clients. And I remember just one of our clients who we started working with, they have a globally distributed team and there's various time zones for each of them. And then one of the groups that were out in an Eastern region, they were tuning in at dinner time for the all hands meeting every time they had it. They were doing these monthly. And it just was kind of inconsiderate of their time, frankly. And it wasn't really, their intention. It was just that they were doing the same thing every time. And so I remember when we first started working with this client and we were brainstorming how to, make these more inclusive meetings and representative of their really strong commitment to inclusion. That was just one little thing that we did, was rotate the time zone so that they weren't always sacrificing their dinner time and time with their families. And it made just such a significant impact to know that they were seen, heard, valued, appreciated for the time that they're spending. Because good time stewardship and like starting and ending the meetings on time and making sure that people have the opportunity to be a part of that, it's such an important thing to consider, but yet often a missed opportunity.
That is so true. And thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it, but honestly, I couldn't do it without you. And that is something that you are amazing at, is just making sure that everything from a big picture perspective and from sort of a technical perspective is tying together in service of the client really living by their values. That's just something you are so committed to, is how do we make these values visible in every aspect, including time. So I remember that. And I remember how excited people were to just have that meeting be more on a time that was convenient for them. Because again, it's sending a signal and a message around inclusion, that if you're a global company and you value inclusion, then these are the things you have to think about. And a lot of the structures that you have put in place have really helped us to, help the client manage all of that. So we make a great team, right?
We do. And I love doing this work, and what a great thing we get to do with our clients. And, one of the things that we're committed to all of you as listeners is that we are going to be good stewards of your time. Speaking of that. And so we're going to just summarize some practical takeaways here. Today, we talked about the importance of all hands meetings, not just being a potential email, but that they are actually inclusive, that representation matters, that putting structures around doing this, that they should be fun, that there are great ways to create engagement like chat, polls, creating visibility moments, storytelling, small breakout groups, reflective questions. These are all things that you can be considering today to really transform the way you do your all hands meeting and see an immediate impact from. Because when people feel included and seen and part of the process and engaged, it just makes for a more productive and better and more cohesive culture.
That is so true. And if any of you listeners out there are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all the different things you can do, I want to encourage you to just take one strategy to apply to your next meeting. So you do not have to move mountains to make your all hands meetings better. It can start with one small step. You think about Neil Armstrong took one small step on the moon and it changed history. So try this. Think about one group or person at your company who hasn't been heard from in a while. So maybe it's the product development department, maybe it's a particular individual, and they are just often in the background doing great work, but they play a critical role. So why not give them a slot in your all hands meeting? Why not feature them? Or maybe a region of the country that's not heard from all that often because maybe they only have 3 or 4 people in that office. Take those folks and make them at the center of the meeting. Or try opening the meeting with an inspiring song, maybe from a country that's represented in your organization, but again, that doesn't get a lot of visibility. So those are just 2 ways that you can make your next meeting better.
Vicki, I love the one small step in the Neil Armstrong reference. And so as we wrap up, remember that these strategies are about opening up our imagination to new possibilities and celebrating the power of inclusion. For more insights and to continue this conversation, we welcome you to visit peoplefirstelevation.com. If you are keen on exploring these ideas further, click on the Let's Work Together. You can book a free, no pressure chat with us. We are here to collaborate and serve this community.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, listeners, for joining us on the People Experience Pulse. So until next time, keep leading the charge in transforming workplaces, and remember, every step in this journey helps us shape the future of work.